I think what we need to do, what would help, is actually us being able to walk the talk in relation to using some of the kind of tools and frameworks or processes that we would use with our service users or learners or whoever, in terms of being able to embed those processes within their own work practices and structures. That would be helpful and beneficial, because it would actually mean that we are walking the talk. We're applying the kind of processes and learning processes that we would expect and encourage others to use and adopt.
I think what would help is making things kind of proportionate to the people that you're working with, so making sure things are relevant at the different gradings of posts. So for example, what might be helpful to a sessional worker who's doing a few hours a week, or a volunteer, might be very different to what a full-time worker would engage in. And again, sometimes when we talk about continuous quality and continuous improvement, we're very much focused on the full-time professional, in inverted commas, sort of CLD worker, whereas in reality, the majority of the work on the ground is delivered by sessional staff, part-time staff, volunteers, and it's how they kind of get engaged in the process and how it's made relevant to them and understandable to them.
Speaking as a student and a sessional worker, I would say that what we need is a wee bit of clarification on the best methods of quality and continuous improvement, and also time to be allowed to do that, because I kind of feel at the moment squeezing a bit of evaluation into a 2-hour session that we're doing with learners isn't enough.
I think the point about having time to reflect is really important, and I think, on one level we'd all aspire to that, but then again, you hear stories of sessional worker contracts being cut back, so they don't even have time to set up activities at the beginning of a group. They're contracted for 2 hours, and that starts from 7 p.m. when the group runs. There's no time built in for preparation. There's very little or no time built in at the end for evaluation or personal reflection. People aren't paid to go on training, they have to do it in their own time. So, I think particularly with economic conditions, I think it's a real challenge for us to build these things in at the moment. I think we all aspire to it. It's how that happens in practice. I think what would help is actually, time being built in as an integral part of folks' contracts.
Obviously, one of the things that helps is evidence. So evidence can come from reflective practice and just sharing what's working and not working. It can come from more formal pieces of research. Sometimes there seems to be a disconnect where one thing is valued more than another. And there's lots of questions about what counts as good evidence. But without evidence, then how can you decide how things should move forward?
Talking about being creative, getting evidence. So obviously looking at the group that you're working with and how they're going to best give you evidence of what they've achieved or they've been working towards. And as I say, gone back to like maybe 3-4 years ago, like when Big Brother was at its hype, there was like loads of places that had like in youth clubs and whatever, they would have like a diary room that young people would go in. And as I say, that's obviously evidence. Young people using technologies and different things that they've been made aware of through obviously media, that they've been using that to give evidence, as opposed to obviously saying, oh no, here's another sheet of paper, I'm going to have to write it down. So it's good to be creative and kind of bring it back to the young people and what they know and what they're going to be good at doing.
I think when we were talking about evidence and creative ways of using it, I think technology is really important, and when we were talking earlier on about what quality improvement means for us, and being constantly reflective and responding to needs culturally, and I think in terms of technology that's really important. So not only being creative, but continually being aware of the new technology around us and using that is a great way to evidence what we do.
I think what helps is to try and bring a bit of coherence to quality and continuous improvement. So yes, we want these outcomes to be driven locally, but at the same time we want some information that we can record across the piece nationally, that's quite longitudinal as well, in terms of the impact and the difference that we're making. I think there is a role for national organisations to play, along with local partners in that, because we can't do it all in lots of different ways in our own localities. We need to actually bring some coherence to that, so that we have robust information that we can help to improve the whole sector, and we cannot just look at ourselves in our own box, but kind of look a bit wider.
What helps is to have a supportive management structure, I guess, in place that not only allows that to happen, but more than that, it facilitates it and enables that to happen in a meaningful way.
Yeah, we talk quite a lot about peer support, I suppose, networks, and we talked about having students in our organisations, and the people coming in and having a critical view on what you do and how you work is actually very important, and that we probably could do more about trying to encourage that kind of external focus. Having to explain what we do to people who maybe don't understand it is quite important in kind of holding yourself to account and actually thinking clearly about what you're doing. So I think we need to encourage networks and exchanges probably more than we do at the moment, just to give people that chance to reflect with each other and be critical to each other in a kind of supportive atmosphere if possible.
I think it's also important to have a really strong sense of purpose collectively within an organisation. It would be difficult to affect continuous improvement if everyone's going off in different directions. So it's important to kind of plan collectively and evaluate collectively and have a really strong sense of what it is you're trying to achieve as a team or as an organisation.